Good day to each of everyone. We're the Group 15 members. Gahinay Juralin, Linuag Rapunzel, Pinusan Febrot ang Sabihan Nil. And our topic is about the Gagne's conditions of learning by Robert M. Gagne. Robert M. Gagne, theoretical background. Born on 1916 in North Andover, Massachusetts. Received Bachelor's of Arts and earned his doctoral room at Brown University. Gagne built on the work of behavioral and information processing theories by translating principles from their learning theories into practical instructional strategies that teachers could employ with directed instructions. Robert Gagne's background and published works. Well known for the theory of conditional learning, consists of three distinct components: the taxonomy of learning, outcomes, learning domain, the nine instructional events, and the specific learning condition hierarchy of learning. Robert Gagne's hierarchy of learning refers to a set of component skills that must be learned before the complex skill of which they are a part can be learned. Classifying different types of learning in terms of the degree of complexity of the mental involved. Higher orders of learning build upon the lower levels. The lowest four orders tend to focus on the more behavioral aspect. The highest four focus on the more cognitive aspect. Objectives. A. Describe the different types of learning outcomes according to R. Gagnes. B. Describe terminal tasks. C. Differentiate procedural task analysis from hierarchical analysis. And D. Identify Gagne's 9 events of instruction and their corresponding process. A. Identify Gagne's hierarchy of learning. And then F. Link Gagne's hierarchy of learning to science instructor. And lastly, we have illustrate a hierarchy task analysis.
Conditions of Learning by Robert Gagne. According to Gagne, there are classifications of learning. First, we have verbal information, cognitive strategy, intellectual skills, motor skills, and attitudes. First, we tackled about intellectual skills. There are subcategories of intellectual skills. First, we have discrimination. Discrimination is the ability to differentiate, such as alligators or crocodiles, or squid or octopus. Some also learners are very good on differentiate the object. Next, we have concept concrete. Concept concrete is the ability to identify an object as a member of a group. Example, some learners are very good on color matching. Some also learners are very good on identifying color. The next, we have defined object. Defined object is the ability to understand the meaning of an object. So example, in this slide, some students are very good on identifying the object. Next, we have rule. Rule is the ability to understand the relationship among objects and events. So some also learners are very good on constructing words. And some also students are very good on identifying. The next, we have problem solving. Problem solving is the ability to combine different. So example, they are very good in rubrics. Next, we have cognitive strategy. Cognitive strategy is another type of intellectual skills for learning, thinking, or learning strategies. Rehearsal, verbally repeat, underline, or copying the materials. The next, we have verbal information. Verbal information concerns with the declarative knowledge, example, facts, information, names, place, etc. To assist the learning of information. Sometimes learning are very good in verbal or very good in written. The next, we have motor skills. Motor skills are the sequence of motor response. Sometimes, some students want physical activities like playing basketball or doing anything that they want. The next, we have attitude. Attitude is an internal state that affects the personal choices and actions over an object.
Good day, I am Neil Sabihon. My part is to present to you the hierarchy of learning by Robert Gagne. The first in the hierarchy is signal learning, the simplest form of learning known as classical conditioning. This is where the learner is conditioned to produce a desired and voluntary response as a result of a stimulus that is preconditioned to the subject. An example would be when a car sounds the horn as we are crossing the road, our eyes swivel towards the source of the noise and we quicken our steps. That is the simplest form of learning and consists essentially of the classical conditioning first described by behavioral psychologist Pavlov. The next is stimulus response learning. Stimulus response theories are central to the principles of conditioning. They are based on the assumption that human behavior is learned. To continue, any change in an organism's environment that causes that organism to react. It is a fancy way of saying it is the cause. An example would be if an individual or a animal is cold, it moves into the sun. The third in the list is chaining learning. It connects two or more previously learned stimulus responses. Do note that chain learning is an instructional strategy grounded in applied behavior analysis theory. Chaining breaks a task into smaller steps and then teaches each step within the sequence by itself. An example would be a child learning to wash his or her hands independently may start with learning to turn on the faucet. Number 4 in the list is verbal association. Verbal associative learning is conventionally studied by asking a person to learn list of word pairs. The task requirement is the acquisition of relational information in contrast to item or non-associative learning where relational information is not relevant to the task. For example, a student nurse being able to define medical terminologies and apply it to a clinical situation. Number 5 in the list is discrimination learning. This is the ability to respond differently to a different stimuli. The term discrimination learning refers to the formation of association between different stimuli and corresponding outcomes or behaviors. It enables animals to choose different responses for different stimuli. An example would be a bomb sniffing dog. The bomb sniffing dog associates finding a certain item to a corresponding reward. Number 6 is concept learning. The term concept learning is originated in psychology where it refers to human ability to learn categories for an object and to recognize new instances for those categories. An example for concept learning is the learning of a bird concept from the given example of birds and non-bird examples. Number 7 on the list is rule learning. I would like to point out two important phrases. This is that it gradually acquires knowledge. It also gives students a chance to learn from their mistakes. So what is rule learning all about? Rule learning is a machine-like learning technique that induces a target function for examples. The target function is defined jointly as a set of if-then rules. The last and the highest in the hierarchy is problem solving. Problem-based learning is a teaching method in which complex real-world problems are used as the vehicle to promote student learning of concepts and principles as opposed to direct presentation of facts and concepts. This can be incorporated in any learning situation. So let us recap from the most basic to the highest in the hierarchy. Number one is signal learning, next is stimulus response learning, chain learning, verbal association, discrimination learning, concept learning, rule learning, and the highest would be the problem solving learning. Thank you and God bless.
Hello, everyone. So, my part is to discuss to you about Gagne's 9 events of instructions. So, what is this 9 events of instruction? So, this model is a systematic process that helps develop strategies and create activities for instructional classes. So, this is actually a step by step approach that can help the teachers structure their lessons so that their students get most from their learning opportunities. So, all throughout this video, I'll be discussing each of the steps. So, let's go to the first one. So, the first one would be gaining attention. So Gagne presented this as a change of stimulus in order to direct everyone's attention to the learning process. So the teacher needs to ensure that learners stand ready to participate and to bring learners' attention to the task at hand. This can be done through starting the lesson in with an engaging story, or teacher can present video animation or audio clip, or the teacher can also like ask the students some thought-provoking questions. This is to set the mood of learning before the actual lesson starts. The second one would be inform the learner of the objectives. So students need to be aware what their learnings they will be able to get, and what are the expected outcomes at the end of the lesson. So this is to ensure that the students know what they need to learn, and that they understand why you're about to or they're about to learn this new information. So you can keep it conversational, or what's important is that you keep it simple. Just let the students know where you're going with the learning experience. The third one would be stimulate recall. So in cognitive perspective, you learn by connecting new knowledge and skills that you already have in your long-term memory. Or this is the part where the teacher brings out pre-existing knowledge into the working memory, so that when you present the new knowledge, skills, or information, it is much easier to connect that from the existing knowledge, and then most likely the new knowledge will be stored in the long-term memory. So this is in reference to the cognitive theory that we've learned in one of our lessons in this course. So for example, the teacher can ask questions that to in order to draw pre-existing knowledge. For example, um, before the teacher discuss a new lesson about electricity, the teacher can ask questions about the existing knowledge of the students on different types of energy, which is kinetic energy and static energy, right? So the teacher will be able can use this as a springboard, um, and connect it to his or her new lesson on electricity, knowing that electricity is an example of kinetic energy. So something like that. Okay, so um, by doing this, uh, it is most likely that students will be able to retain new information about electricity, because they're able to connect it with their previous knowledge on energy. Okay, so the fourth one would be to present stimulus. So this is actually the part where the teacher is already, presenting the new information or knowledge to the students. So when we do this, okay, the goal is information acquisition. So this is where they students will take in the new information that you want them to get. Okay, so what's important is that teachers organize their information in a logical and easy to understand manner. Okay, so they can try to use a variety of different media and styles, such as visual cues, verbal instruction, and active learning, in order to suit the different learning styles of the students. So, what's important to keep in mind is that it should be aligned to the objectives in order to avoid unnecessary information. Okay. Number four, or number five, sorry, is providing learners guidance. So, teachers provide learning process by providing hints or cues when needed. So, this is like the what we always say that teachers do scaffolding, right? That all throughout the learning process, the teacher should be there or ready should be ready to answer questions or inquiries that the students need, in certain areas of the lesson, or certain information that they still need guidance or assistance with. Okay, so students learn the material. Teachers should help students learn the material in an efficient way. So, you can give guide questions, or can also provide case studies that they can use, or teachers can provide tips on how to study or learn the material. Okay, so the sixth one would be eliciting performance. So, what is this? So, students learn by doing things. So, this step actually allows learners to apply their new learned knowledge and skills by themselves with a little guidance. So, it's important that teachers provide an opportunity for students to practice the new learned knowledge or skills that you just taught them. Okay, and provide them a low risk practice opportunities. So for example, giving them a math problem, practice math problem for them to solve using the math skill that you just taught. Or you can provide a case study that they can analyze, or they can actually practice on. Okay, so as they do this, as they apply their new learned knowledge and skills, they learn a lot from by doing this. As they practice what they've learned, they get to learn from their mistakes, or they get to confirm if their understanding is correct. Okay, so these actually connects us with number seven, which is giving feedback. So it's important that as we give them opportunity to practice what they've learned, okay, we should be there to we should be ready to provide feedback or timely feedback to our students. So this goes hand in hand with providing practice opportunities, like I said. Okay, give feedback as soon as possible, so that if a student is off track, they can get feedback to us why, and then they will be able to readjust accordingly to get closer to the instructional goals. So Number 8 would be assess performance. So these steps allows teacher to see if the students achieve the learning objectives. So as well as to see what content they have not mastered. So this could be in the form of a quiz or even through observation. So this gives helpful data to the learners and the instructor. For the students, they get to realize what they need to improve more. And as for the teacher, it gives useful information on how to improve the learning experience or the assessment to make it more in line with the learning objectives. And lastly, would be enhancing retention and transfer. So, applying learning in real life situation is a step towards mastery learning. So, student in these steps, students should be able to take the new knowledge and skills that they have learned and apply it in real life situations or in different contexts. So this can be in the form of simulation, okay, simulation, or providing them um, a case study, something like that, where they can take what they've learned from you and actually apply that knowledge or skill in this situation. Okay, so teachers can also provide an opportunity for students to peer teach. This is when you actually allow your students to teach their peers, because they can also learn from this as they teach, or as they teach each other. They get to also learn a lot from that experience. So with that, that is the 9 events of instruction of Gagne. So these 9 levels of learning model actually gives trainers and educators a checklist to use before they engage in teaching or training activities. So each step highlights a form of communication that aid the learning process. And when each step is completed in turn, learners are much more likely to be engaged and retain the information or the skills that they're being taught. Okay, so if you use this approach before any type of training session or presentation, you remember that how to structure your session or your lesson so that your students get the best possible learning experience. Okay, so that's all, and have a great day.